It is really a pleasure to see all of you here today. My name is Sarah Wright, and I am the Executive Director and founder of Utah Clean Energy. And this has been a long time in the making, and I thank Megan Spicer from Eco America for bringing this initiative to us to bring to all of you in Utah. So I'll start with a little bit about why we're here. And so we've all seen the unprecedented series of extreme weather events with associated deaths and human suffering and hundreds of billions of dollars of costs of damage and relief. And this is all exacerbated by climate change. And then in Utah, because of our geography, studies show that we are warming at 2 to 4 times the national average. And that we've had unprecedented high temperatures in the summer. And last year, we exceeded the ozone standard by 22 times. And that's ground level ozone that causes permanent lung damage. So we're seeing the impacts globally, and we're seeing the impacts here at home. And then this is the last little bit of bummer before we get to the good stuff, is that the White House just released the 4th assessment on climate change. And I would encourage everyone to read the executive summary, but I will say I'm a person of hope, but I did sit down and cry for a little bit after I read that. But then I picked myself up, and it's because of all of you here that I have hope that we can come together because we have the technologies and we have the solutions to address climate change in a smart way. And so while polls show that over 70% of the American public is concerned about climate change, over half of these people rarely or never talk about it with even their closest friends and family. And so today we're going to change all that. We're launching Path to Positive Utah, and with an inaugural group of 40 amazing and diverse leaders, that many of them that are here today, that have come together to sign the declaration, acknowledging the risk of human-caused climate change and the importance of working together and creating dialogue to find solutions that will not only support a healthy climate, but will help our economy, our air quality, and our quality of life. And I will say, as a longtime Utahn, I'm honored to work with all of you and with these leaders, and to once again show the rest of the country that Utah knows how to get things done, that we roll up our sleeves and we work together. So thank you all so much for coming here. And before the leaders sign the Path to Positive Climate Change Declaration, we're honored to have some of our amazing leaders to speak about why they support this effort.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and thank you to Utah Clean Energy. We are so proud of our stewardship when it comes to our natural resources. Our state is a great place for people to live, work, and to play. And I'd like to think that's part of the reason that a company like Goldman Sachs has chosen to locate here, because of the great natural resources we have here. At Salt Lake County, however, we already see how climate change is affecting us. It is our responsibility to help our community to be prepared for emergencies such as wildfires, floods, storms, and other weather events. The county is also doing its part to reduce emissions and mitigate the problems of pollution that are affecting the climate. We promote active transportation in Salt Lake County. Bicycling or walking for short trips avoids the need to drive our car, which avoids the pollution going into the air. We also like to partner with private and nonprofit groups, as well as local, state, and federal agencies. Our health department is preparing for the 4th annual Climate and Health Symposium next April on the 25th and 26th. This event brings together experts to discuss the state of our knowledge on climate science and what is happening around the world and here locally. The health department, with the assistance of a CDC public health associate, has developed a climate change and health adaptation plan to assist agencies and organizations with planning for a changing climate. We also educate our residents on idling their vehicles and how to reduce idling, because that's a major source of pollutants in the air. And like we see today, we love this landscape and the view that we see from here, but you can already see a little bit of that pollution building up that hinders our view of our incredibly beautiful natural resources. We know that personal vehicle idling wastes fuel and generates around 30 million tons of CO2 annually in the U.S., And we also know that idle reduction information is provided with 750,000 emission inspections each year in Salt Lake County. So as we do these emission inspections, we make sure to inform people about how they can reduce idling and reduce their pollution. Salt Lake County, one of the initiatives that I'm proud of, a few years ago, with the leadership of our health department, we launched the first ever vehicle repair assistance program, where we provide financial assistance to low-income motorists to repair vehicles that have failed emissions testing. In Utah, sometimes if you're low income and in need and need that vehicle to get to work and it fails an emission test, you can get a waiver. And that's good because we want people to stay employed and to be able to continue to provide for their families, but it's bad because those high polluting vehicles are on our streets. And so we have a vehicle repair assistance program that we partnered with the private sector to help people get assistance, low-income individuals to get assistance to repair their vehicles so they're no longer high-emission vehicles. The high-emission vehicles emit up to 100 times the pollution of a well-maintained vehicle. So this program helps people maintain transportation options without harming the air. We also help to educate residents about the importance of energy efficiency. This education helps to limit wood burning by residents to avoid particulate pollution and helps to promote home heating and cooling efficiency to reduce emissions from our homes. So I want to thank so many people who are in the room today who are doing so much to help us to reduce the impacts of climate change and to prepare for the change that's coming to us. I want to thank you all for your work, and I'm proud for Salt Lake County to be a part of this work and to be part of today's event. And thank you to all of the participants in the Path to Positive initiative.
Well, thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you, Sarah. You're such a tremendous leader, and it's been such a pleasure working with you, so thank you. And thank you to my team who is here, Vicki Bennett, who is running the Department of Sustainability for Salt Lake City, and her team are just phenomenal in the expertise that they bring to the fold in this discussion. I've had the opportunity to speak about climate change and clean energy solutions at a number of events since I became mayor 2 years ago, but perhaps none of these opportunities has been more exciting than this one. The launch of Path to Positive Utah as a shared platform to come together as leaders across all sectors to discuss how climate change is unique and hopefully proves to be positively transformative. Salt Lake City has played a leadership role on clean energy for a number of years. However, those efforts have been kicked into high gear with our recent commitment to net 100% renewable energy for our entire city by 2032, along with targeting an 80% reduction in our community carbon footprint by 80%. We've learned a lot in the early stages of our march towards clean energy. Perhaps the most hopeful lesson we've learned is about how well equipped we are in this region for our city and others to make this transition fairly rapid and while utilizing state resources. The values of innovation and collaboration, along with a pioneering spirit, which we love here, are needed to take large-scale action on climate change. These are the same values reflected in Path to Positive Utah and its associated leaders' declaration. There is no question that climate change is a daunting challenge. There is also no question that the low-carbon solutions we need are both accessible and cost-effective today. This is particularly evident in Utah, where abundant sunshine and a strong collective desire to address air quality open the door for local solutions. We can see this in the strong growth of solar power and electrified transportation. I've seen the power of individual cities leading the way on clean energy solutions across this country. Salt Lake City was the 16th city in the nation to commit to 100% renewable energy in July of just last year. And now over 150 mayors in the U.S. have endorsed that exact same goal. Similarly, I see the potential for Path to Positive Utah to forge a new path forward on climate change, a path energized by the spirit of mutual respect and a commitment to genuine dialogue. The fact that this climate change leadership platform is emerging in Utah, a deeply conservative state, is not ironic. Increasing concern about climate change is reflected in recent polling data, both for Utahns generally and Salt Lake City residents specifically. A climate change leadership platform emerging in this state is, however, very noteworthy. This initiative can result in a unique success that inspires action and solutions-based dialogue on climate change, not just here, but elsewhere across this country. We are, and we can, and we must lead on path to positive. We have the expertise here like no others. And thank you again for being a part of this, for taking time today, and I'm very excited to be able to help move this forward with my fellow Utahns and lead on climate change for this country. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm here to represent Summit County and Chris Robinson, our county chair, who couldn't be here today. He also happens to be one of the largest ranchers in the state. I'm going to talk about the effects of climate change on rural Utah. Over the last 30 years or so, our winter season, as defined by the first persistent snow to the last persistent snow, has shrunk by about 6 weeks, 3 weeks in the front and 3 weeks in the back. The snow level, where our snowpack is at the end of March, has risen to around the 7,000 foot level. If we don't address climate change, those trends will continue over the next 30 to 40 years, and we'll see an 8,000 foot snowpack level, then a 9,000 foot snowpack level. What effects will this have on our rural economy? It'll shorten the irrigation season for all of our farmers and ranchers. The intense heat during the summers will cause a decrease in soil moisture, reducing the amount of animals that can be grazed on our grazing lands in the state. Not to mention the effect that it will have on the snow sport industry. We can solve climate change, but we have to start now. The actions that Mayor Biskupski has talked about, we are also adopting in Summit County. 100% renewable electrical energy for the county by 2032 and a reduction of 80% of our carbon footprint. This has to be a model for the rest of the country. Yeah. Through our example, I hope we can prove to our counterparts around the state and around the country that these measures are doable economically. I've heard people say, oh, we can't afford to do that. If you look at the economic consequences of not doing it, there is no question what is more important. The task in front of us now, we've done the easy part, actually. We've passed a resolution. Now we got to get her done. And we need help from all of our community to do this. And it's really up to the remaining years of my generation, my children's generation, and my grandchildren's generation. We can either destroy the planet or we can save it.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of Goldman Sachs, and we're pleased to be a part of this initiative. Goldman Sachs believes that climate change is one of the most significant environmental challenges of the 21st century, and that delaying action on climate change will be costly for our natural environment, to humans, and to the economy. And we believe that urgent action by government, business, consumers, and civil society is necessary to curb greenhouse gas emissions. We also believe that the capital markets can and should play an important role in addressing environmental challenges, and to that end, we have committed to invest and finance in clean energy with an expanded target of $150 billion by the year 2025, and also to facilitating access to clean energy solutions for underserved markets. Just briefly, I'll note in our own operations that we have achieved carbon neutrality in all our operations and business travel starting in 2015 onwards, and also that we are targeting 100% renewable power to meeting our global electricity needs by 2020. And lastly, we're targeting $2 billion in green operational investments in our own operations by 2020. We, as Goldman Sachs, we're proud to be part of the Salt Lake City community. I am a recent relocated professional here, and as a father of 6 who moved from the East Coast, I'll say that I'm really passionate about these items, particularly the air quality, which we're very pleased to be in this beautiful state and wish we could see it more clearly. And so that's something that I personally have been very passionate about and glad to participate in this initiative. Thank you very much.
Well, as a father of 6, you fit in this community really well.
Great place.
Welcome. My name is Tom Love. I'm president of Love Communications, a local marketing and advertising firm here in Salt Lake. We care deeply about climate change. Being a 30-year professional in communications, I'm very well aware that nothing of substance happens in this community without collaboration. That or you're a Republican. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we have to collaborate. We have to discuss. We can talk about climate change in this state. It's very personal for me. My wife has asthma, and over the last 5 to 6 years, it started when January hits, February hits, July hits, the worst months of the year. She's got to have an inhaler with her all the time. Now it's December, and the seasons are expanding. There are times in January and July when it's hard for her to go outside and breathe. This is a very, very real issue for everybody who lives here. We can talk about climate change in the reddest of the red states. We can talk about it. We can acknowledge it. Just last month, the Salt Lake Tribune Hinckley Institute of Politics poll showed that 71% of Utahns believe in climate change, believe that climate change is real. And 64%, 2/3 of this state, believe that human activity has an impact and exacerbates climate change. It's time everybody can talk about it. We can all say climate change without fear of retribution or being fear of ridiculed. It is real, it is happening, and the citizens of this state support activity addressing climate change to stop it, to halt it, and to protect our way of life. Path to Positive is the opportunity to bring together leadership, business, political, ecclesiastical, all types of leadership to address climate change and to lead on a dialogue that leads us to solutions that make sense for Utah. We have the people, we have the tools, we now have a collaborative platform, and I look forward to being a part of the dialogue and the discussion that actually does things and moves this forward. So congratulations to Path to Positive. It's about time. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and I'm pleased to be part of this group that is working to address or to have a conversation about climate change and how it affects us. As a religious person, I happen to believe that God made this universe and that we are part of it. And the care of the earth is important for us, not only in the present moment, but also for the future generations. Now, I recognize that not all people are like me and religious in orientation. So from a simple practical point of view, this is the only planet we human beings have. And on that alone, it would seem to me that we have a common interest in having a conversation and taking action on climate change. The Episcopal Diocese of Utah, part of the Episcopal Church, understands this, and we support the moves of the Episcopal Church at large to be a religion that addresses this, not only by sending people to work with legislators. We'll be at the UN Climate Change Conference coming up, but also locally here with our churches installing solar, which is not only good for the environment, also reduces operational costs. Now, again, I recognize that all of us are not necessarily religious folk, but I am an Episcopalian, and the 11th commandment in the Episcopal Church is this: God gave us brains, we should use them. And 97% of the climatologists, those who actually study climate, agree that human beings have an effect on this. So again, I may not be a scientist, but I do happen to have a brain. And I humbly request, that as we work together, we all use our intellect to help address this. And together, I believe, we can make the changes needed to help preserve our planet, our city, our state, not only for today, but into the future, for all the future generations to come. Thank you.